Black Christmas is a 1974 Canadian horror film directed by Bob Clark, and often considered the grandfather of the slasher genre. In fact, the film that kicked off the trend of slashers, John Carpenter's Halloween, initially started out as a sequel to Black Christmas.
John Carpenter had asked Bob Clark, are you going to make another Black Christmas? You know, that's one of my favorite films.
Over the years, it's acquired a massive cult following and is very respected for its contributions to horror.
I still have tons of people coming up and asking for autographs for Black Christmas stuff. It's amazing to me.
In 2006, it was remade to not so great success, and shockingly enough, got another remake in 2019.
Come on, it's like Christmas time.
What with this being my latest obsession, and it being the Christmas season, what better set of films to talk about?
And you know what I'm there to do.
But unlike Carrie, there are not things to like about every version.
What comes next?
The 2019 remake is pretty much a train wreck from start to finish, so in the interests of remaining positive, we'll get that one out of the way first.
So you're telling me you think the DKO boys possessed their pledges in some supernatural hazing ritual?
So this film's very existence seems like an oddball. The 2006 version at least was caught up in the wave of 80s slasher remakes, but its critical, or more importantly, commercial failure should have meant we wouldn't be seeing another attempt anytime soon. Plus, unlike Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, this was not a beloved franchise that everyone would automatically know.
Oh, come on, this is a sorority house, not a convent.
There's just the one film and its lesser seen remake, but there are three factors in this one's creation. 1. The 2018 reboot of Halloween was a smash hit and got the best critical reviews of any sequel in the franchise, so naturally Blumhouse began looking at other beloved 70s horrors they could reboot. 2. The production company were facing lots of criticism for the lack of female directors in their output, so they grabbed Sophia Takal, who they'd worked with on television, and gave her 5 months to get something ready for wide release.
Can I see your license, please?
He wasn't driving.
I didn't ask who was driving, I asked to see his ID.
3. The Blumhouse-produced Get Out was a cultural phenomenon, snagging not only box office success and critical acclaim, but a Best Picture nomination and a Best Screenplay win. So, Sophia Takal saw both dollar signs and gold statuettes and went, hey, I can make that for the Me Too movement. Probably not realizing that film had already been made.
You'll never have me. Ever.
Twice. Okay, 3 times.
You never stop, do you? You just I don't stop because they don't stop.
First of all, it is important to remember that this entire film had 5 months to be completed. It is possible for a movie to have a fast turnaround and still be watchable. I Know What You Did Last Summer was made in about 6 months.
You're giving us way too much credit.
But this is sadly not the case here. Chris Stuckman did a whole video on why this fails both as a film and a Me Too parable, so I'd recommend checking that out if you want someone more eloquent than me.
This movie, for the most part, plays out like a long, drawn-out Twitter feud.
The cinematography and blocking of certain scenes, especially the opening kill, have a very rushed, uncertain feeling to them. In some scenes, they reportedly only had time to do one take, and that's very obvious in parts.
And tell Brian to stay the hell away from Riley.
This extends to the acting as well, where nearly all the cast have this tentative uncertainty to their lines, as if they don't fully understand their characters yet.
I don't know, I guess they're strong, and they're all kind of like one unit.
There's a real lack of chemistry between these people that are supposed to be the best of friends.
Please?
And the scenes between Riley and Landon that are meant to be endearingly awkward just come across as actually awkward instead.
But I'd get it. I'd DM you if you wanted me to.
Imogen Poots is the only one who delivers a good performance.
We're not inspiring people. We're pissing people off.
While the rest feel like they're on the first or second read-through.
And you can't kill an ant because they're all an extension of the others.
That's really poetic.
But the 2 weak links are...
You see, when your friend, Miss Waterson, had the founder's statue removed and brought here...
Carrie Elwes is our villain in what's presented as a serious, hard-hitting drama about rape culture and female empowerment, and yet his performance feels so cartoony and over-the-top that he would be more at home in the 2006 remake. In every scene, it seems as though he didn't know what kind of film he was in.
You're all insane.
No, not insane, Miss Stone. Simply mad.
Going over the top can work if it fits the character. See Matthew Lillard in Scream or Fairuza Balk in The Craft. But it feels painfully out of place here.
Rebuild yourself, bitch.
Elise Shannon was probably the wrong choice for Chris as well, or at least needed way more time to prepare.
Don't worry. It's consensual.
Chris is meant to be seen as a charismatic, powerful figure who supports her best friend and fights for the underdog, but she ends up feeling more like a massive tool.
Because men have all the power.
Instead of passionate, she just feels whiny. Instead of supportive, she just comes across as self-serving.
You posted the video from last night online? Yeah, why? Is it getting views?
This character needed a lot of work to feel like a human and not a political mouthpiece, and she just ends up feeling insufferable.
Not all men have power.
Did you just not all men me?
And even in 2019, the most prominent black female in the film is still pigeonholed into the supportive best friend role. The movie may sell itself on being subversive, but its female lead is still white, straight, cisgendered, and abled. And this movie's attitude towards its message reminds me of...
That's right. A girl wants to play football. How about that?
Well, that's super duper, Lisa. In fact, we already have 4 girls on the team.
You do?
Uh-huh. But we'd love to have you on board.
Well...
As I covered already in another video, horror and films in general have been talking about women's stories and issues for decades. And feminism itself is a very diverse topic with many different viewpoints. So a film shouldn't have to sell itself on being feminist or progressive because that should be expected already. Let's also remind ourselves that Black Christmas 2019 isn't even the first film to talk about sexual assault, sisterhood, or rape culture, or even the first horror film to do so. Sophia Takal claims she put message before plot, which, well, fine if that's what you really wanted to go for, but fiction requires a lot more craft and subtlety if it wants to get messages across effectively.
You and I have SCX. I didn't know.
In probably the saddest bit of irony, a scene in the film itself demonstrates why it fails both as a film and a social justice message.
I didn't lead you on for goodness sake. I couldn't have 'cause I wasn't awake.
The one scene that manages to be effective.
Up in the frat house, click, click, click. What you guys do in here is sick.
The song is well written, the sequence is shot decently, and it's actually entertaining.
Don't say that this was my fault.
It both conveys its message and entertains the audience. And that's how a film with a message should operate.
Get out. Sorry, man. Get out!
Get Out succeeded both because it was an extremely well-written screenplay, and also showed a lesser portrayed side of racism and prejudice. So the result was that the audience enjoyed the story, and came away either with a new perspective, or relating to the material.
Are you even sure she's a fucking virgin, man?
Yes.
Jennifer's Body, Sucker Punch, and yes, even The Rage Carrie 2 weave the topic of rape culture into their narratives much more carefully, and therefore effectively.
No. I'm gonna have an abortion.
The 1974 version even had a mild social message that again came across much better.
What the hell are you trying to do to me?
What are you doing to yourself?
At the end of the day, this was simply a failed experiment that suffered from a rushed production. Hopefully no one's film career goes the same way as Glen Morgan's.
What happened?
You mean after he washed down his Christmas cookies with a glass of milk?
Remake number 1 follows the original much closer, with more girls, twice the kills, buckets of gore, and a whole lot of backstory.
Billy lived here.
This was caught up in the trend of slasher remakes that Scream 4 chose to satirize.
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror, Last House on the Left, Friday the 13th, and A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, When a Stranger Calls, Prom Night, Black Christmas, House of Wax, The Fog, Piranha.
I can't really complain since 2005's House of Wax ended up being my gateway to the slasher genre.
You're just my style. Sexy and you don't even know it, baby. You gotta know it, baby.
Fun fact, I had no idea who Paris Hilton was, and I was one of the 2 people hoping she'd make it.
Happy holidays.
Black Christmas 2006 actually had the approval of Bob Clark, and the backstory it gives the killer is based off something he came up with for the original.
Billy is abusive and abused his little sister and was abused himself and probably killed his parents.
Glen Morgan was brought on to direct, having been a huge fan of the original and wanting to homage it while still expanding on a few points.
This was the house that scared the shit out of us.
So this was down in the cards to be more of a Carrie or Night of the Living Dead situation, honouring the legacy of the first, while still updating it for a new audience. What ended up happening? It's impossible to watch this remake without seeing the fingerprints all over it. And while the higher-ups trying to have their way doesn't always yield negative results, it absolutely does here.
Agnes.
As noted above, this version expands on several story elements, giving the unseen and unidentified killer a whole history.
The mother hated Billy.
Now confirmed to be called Billy Lenz, he was born with yellow skin and was mistreated by his mother,
Santa Claus is dead,
who ended up raping him to conceive a daughter she could be proud of. This is the mysterious Agnes we kept hearing about, although in Glen Morgan's vision she was just a half-sister rather than daughter. After years of abuse, Billy snapped and took revenge on his evil mother and stepfather, who also murdered his loving biological father. Agnes survived with just losing an eye, while Billy was committed, and the house where all this happened is of course the sorority house the main characters now occupy.
I see Billy still gets a Christmas present.
In Glen Morgan's vision, after spending the movie assuming Billy had escaped from the asylum, the twist would be that he in fact died there years ago, and it was actually Agnes as the killer.
Everyone should be home for Christmas.
This honestly sounds like a fun twist that even purists who hate the very idea of the remake could appreciate.
No, Miss Mac, Billy is dead.
And even now, a female killer is still pretty subversive. But the Weinstein brothers insisted there be two killers because of course everyone loved Scream's big twist.
Perfect ending.
Black Christmas 2006 was also the victim of the Weinsteins insisting on more violence and silliness.
I know you're very, very naughty.
And rather infamously, several scenes shot behind Glen Morgan's back to put in the trailer.
Merry Christmas, mother.
So with all this behind the scenes screwing around, you'd be surprised that I found a lot to like in this film.
No, you see, serial killers murder repeatedly for sexual thrill. Billy Lenz was a spree killer. Dude just fucking lost it.
The first is that we actually have a pretty decent cast.
No, I'm starting to see the sugar plum fairies. I don't need to hear little fuckers too. Language.
Andrea Martin returns from the original, now playing the house mother role and making it her own.
Does it come with a man to wear it for?
Katie Cassidy is genuinely adorable and spirited.
You're not downstairs and I'm gonna take your presents!
And she manages to salvage this insanely problematic scene where Kelly victim blames her boyfriend, who's just been subjected to revenge porn, and shames him for having a sexual past he's not proud of.
Okay, I did not put this on the net.
But I digress.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, asshole.
Fuck all you.
This is my fight song!
Jessica Robinson said of the female characters, "The sorority sisters in Black Christmas are set up to be ideal females. They all have long hair, they are concerned with how they look, and they sit on the couch and file their nails. However, unlike stereotypical females, they also drink, cuss, and talk badly about their families."
I had to bury the hatchet with my sister. Right in her head.
Michelle Trachtenberg, Crystal Lowe, and Lacey Chabert help make their characters stand out and feel like real people.
You're a better sister to me than my own sister.
Yeah, Dick Cheney's a better sister to you than your sister.
Even if studio meddling led to most of their characterization getting cut.
She's dial star 69. That just calls him back unless there's something you need him to clarify.
And hell, this time the dour Mary Elizabeth Winstead character is meant to be disliked.
I'm going home. Yeah, run to daddy. At least my family wants me to come home.
There's also the addition of Lee, a sister of the opening victim, who's a well-done red herring for Agnes.
And 3 other girls are missing.
And yes, we get bonus points for having 2 female characters who are over 30 and get to be proactive.
Till I see that she's dead. She is alive.
Another thing that stuck out on the first watch.
What? I'm not the totally helpless daddy's girl these bitches make me out to be.
When taking into account the usual slasher cliches, it's not immediately obvious who the final girl will be.
But can I say, I'm sorry, I'm really not okay with any of this. I mean, buying a Christmas present for a serial killer?
You can guess it's not going to be Lauren or Megan, but the choice of actresses for the rest help keep you guessing who will survive.
He's out here.
This was a deliberate move, casting actresses who could all be potentially viewed as the final girl.
What have you done?
The movie establishes the threat by killing off minor characters and giving the mains plenty of development before they start dropping.
You crazy bitch, I can see your breath.
Lacey Chabert was probably the most notable of the leads, and she's one of the first to bite it.
You did it! Maybe you did that!
It wasn't him.
How do you know?
The fact that Kelly is the only one to make it to the end does feel subversive, even if a sole survivor is the high point of cliché, precisely because we still expect the perky blonde to get killed off.
Let's go. Stay with your friend.
Melissa and Lee were down in the cars to survive too. The former got killed because it was Michelle Trachtenberg's condition for signing on, and the latter because of... Yeah, I choose to stop the movie at this point.
I'm not going to be able to open this in front of my sister, so...
Because I found myself really being drawn to the underlying themes of finding your own family where you can.
Mel, come on, we're leaving, let's go! I'm not leaving Lauren, you bitch!
We're sisters. So act like it.
Billy's backstory of having an abusive family parallels how most of the girls aren't on the best of terms with their own relatives.
She has no boyfriend, no family. And really, where does she have to go?
And they act as each other's sisters.
In a weird way, she seems older. She was the one who wanted to bridge that time, finally get to know each other while we could.
Lee likewise couldn't get to repair the rift with her sister before she died, but was able to form some kind of bond with Kelly in their shared trauma. And an ending like that has more power than the standard, yay, she stopped the killer schlock that we got instead.
We stay together.
And it's the breakdown of the girls' unit that leads to most of their deaths.
Dad, we're not all here. If we were, then I would go.
That's right.
Even despite the executive meddling, there's still some good material that makes the sillier aspects of the film more palatable.
Christmas is more about warding off evil spirits than Halloween. What Christmas shit in this room resembles anything Christian, huh? It's all neo-pagan magic.
The film also has a fun visual style that throws all the stereotypical Christmas stuff front and center for a nice dose of visual irony.
Fuck you, Santa Claus.
It's so extra, and that just makes the film enjoyable.
Hey, shouldn't you get going? Don't you have lots of toys to deliver to good little boys and girls?
Calling Black Christmas 2006 a good film might be stretching things, but there is good in it. And it's certainly far more watchable than the 2019 version.
Holy fuck!
But without further ado, the fun part of this video is just gushing about what an effective film Bob Clark's 1974 classic is. Solid direction instantly lures you into this world and gets you invested in what's happening.
No, operator, I still can't hear.
You're thrown right into the middle of the story, with the girls already being desensitized to their mysterious caller.
It's him again! The Mona!
Hints and references to outside lives to make the girls feel fleshed out.
My mother's taking a place up at Mont Holly's. Anyone else want to come? Yeah. Sounds like fun.
And a steady pace that never feels too slow or too fast.
You put the baby. You've got the wrong number.
The premise is very simple, but pulled off entirely because of great direction.
The caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house.
Roy Moore's initial script was more of a conventional slasher.
Probably as a script wasn't the most original idea, but I think Clark really took it and made enough changes to it that it really came out something.
But when Bob Clark came on board, he added in a lot more comic relief, particularly in the house mother character, Mrs. Mack.
Oh, it's really lovely. Got about as much use for this as a chest belt.
And instead of detracting from the horror, it enhances it and helps you form an attachment to the characters.
If you laugh, you can, and I'll bust you to Boy Scout, I swear.
Lieutenant Fuller even gets a couple of moments where we can see that he's more than just this stoic authority figure.
Nash, I don't think you could pick your nose without written instructions.
Couple that with John Saxon's understated work, and this character is surprisingly compelling.
Yeah, Felicia. One of the girls that was in this afternoon gave it to me. She gave it to you.
The characterization is also one of the movie's strongest elements.
You know, for a public servant, I think your attitude really sucks.
Bob Clark wanted to portray college students as more intelligent and proactive than they were normally given credit for.
Peter, I don't want to marry you.
And each of the protagonists has a refreshing set of layers.
There's a certain species of turtle that can screw for 3 days without stopping.
Barb, for example, was an extremely unconventional female character at the time, getting to be shamelessly funny, outrageous, and outspoken.
Oh, why don't you go find a wall socket and stick your tongue in it? That'll give you a charge.
And even then, she shows obvious regret at how she treated Claire, and her famous one-upping of Sergeant Nash is partly done to defend Claire's honor.
Fellatio. It's a new exchange, FE.
It's a new one on me.
Mrs. Mac is lots of fun, and despite being presented as a wacky alcoholic, still gets to show a caring and responsible side.
We're sure she'll call her show up soon.
Claire may be the opening victim, but Lynn Griffin does a lot with the part, and as I said before, she feels like a rounded character.
Oh, hello, puss. Hello.
And that makes her death have far more meaning. I didn't care about the opening victim in the 2019 film, but on every rewatch of the 1974 film, I still wish Claire wouldn't walk into that closet.
Who is that?
Phyllis is in the supportive best friend role, but feels like a fully formed person who just happens to be a very kind and caring individual, as opposed to a sounding board for the main character's worries.
Come on now, Phil, we don't know that. Poor Mr. Harrison.
And Jess, the responsible final girl, still gets to have scenes where she lets her hair down and has fun with her friends.
Jess, you girls are just too good to me.
Oh, nonsense, Mrs. Mac.
There are lots of little moments throughout the film that do a lot in subtly fleshing out her character and making her the perfect protagonist to root for.
I want to report something. No, I don't want to hold.
And even when getting confirmation that the killer is inside the house, she bravely grabs a fire poker and won't leave her friends.
Oh, please answer me!
She's also got a sexual relationship with her boyfriend that the movie doesn't judge her for, and the narrative supports her decision to abort the baby.
Jess, have you tried getting an abortion?
I think you better leave.
You could argue that this is a strong political statement like in the 2019 remake, but here the social commentary ties into the story in a much smoother way.
We can't kill the baby, that's a strange way of putting it.
Peter's an artist. He's very high-strung.
Jess has reason to suspect that her boyfriend Peter, played to chilling effect by Keir Dullea, is getting increasingly controlling and possessive.
You can't make a decision like that, you haven't even asked me.
And the news of the abortion, coupled with a few violent outbursts, make him a prime suspect for the killer's identity.
You know, I don't like Peter much, but I don't think he's that sick.
All the female characters are actually quite sex positive, and the first victim is the one who seems the most likely to be the final girl. Merge that with how the police are shown to be largely ineffective, with Jess having to save herself, and you have a very progressive set of characters that help the film hold up extremely well.
Peter, you're not going to tell me what I can and cannot do.
The thing that makes Black Christmas really work as a horror is a good sense of restraint.
Jess?
Unlike the 2019 film relying on cliched jump scares and a convoluted plot twist, and the 2006 film relying on gratuity, the original keeps us in suspense with one simple hook. We know there's someone in the house and the girls don't. Billy has plenty of places to hide, and the fact that we never see him means he could be anyone, and therefore anywhere.
Claude? Is that you, Puss?
Two of the kills are even juxtaposed with sequences of everyday life continuing downstairs, reminding us that Billy could strike at any moment and the girls wouldn't see him coming.
Agnes, don't you tell what we did, Agnes.
And for all the work the police do to tap the phone and investigate Peter, we already know that Billy can easily sneak in and out. And the advantage he has is that Jess assumes, since he's phoning the sorority house, he has to be somewhere else.
Yes. Yes, he was here. He was at the house tonight when the first call came. That's right, it couldn't be Peter. Phil, it couldn't be Peter. He was here.
It's hard to really summarize just how Black Christmas works as a film overall.
Christ's sakes, Nash, you got it wrong. That's where the calls are going into.
That's where they're coming from too, sir.
I won't say it's a complex tale of deep themes with some hard-hitting emotions and issues, but it is an extremely well-made film with some killer cinematography, several actors giving nicely understated performances, an iconic location, and some brilliant direction. Basically, it's all the necessary ingredients coming together with a simple yet effective premise, and thus you have a film that more than earns its cult classic status.
Agnes, it's me, Billy.